Happy Monday, everybody. We have a lot to get to, so let's get to it. Well, last week's missive certainly raised some eyebrows. Gold at 20,000 an ounce, Greg, what are you talking about? So, quick recap. Remember what we said that gold's basically a shiny yellow metal. If you raise the price of gold, it won't immediately ripple through the economy. In other words, if you change the price of gold, it doesn't change the price of apples or farmland or gasoline. Unlike if you change the price of oil, it would ripple through the economy immediately. And then we did the quick example. Franklin Roosevelt changed the price of gold from 20 bucks an ounce to 35 with a stroke of a pen. And what did it do for him? It helped him on his balance sheet. Now, just quick thing here. I know most of you don't think in terms of balance sheets, but think about your house. Sometimes you might just draw a line down a sheet of paper and you go, what are our assets? Well, let's see. We've got this much equity in our house. We own the car. We've got this much in a 401k. And you add it up. All right, that's your asset side. What do we owe? Oh, yeah, we got the credit card bill, and oh, we owe on the college debt or whatever. And you, at the end of it, you go, am I positive or negative? It's the same with the government. They've got assets, land, they own buildings, they've got tanks, they've got jets, and they've got gold. Meanwhile, they've got liabilities, things like debts. So what did Roosevelt do? By changing the price of one of his assets and taking gold from 20 to 35, his balance sheet got more in balance. And all he had to do was change the price of gold. And then people still said, okay, I get it, but how do they enforce that? Well, it'd be pretty easy. Let's just say Monday morning, President Trump announces, as of right now, the US government will buy from anybody out there an ounce of gold for $20,000 an ounce. He says, the government's going to buy my gold for 20,000 bucks an ounce. Who would you sell to? Would you sell your gold to the government, or would you sell it to the guy on, Manal Boulevard, these nice people at 3,300 bucks an ounce? Clearly, you would sell it 20,000 or 40,000 or higher. It's that easy to set the price. And remember, government's got a balance sheet issue. We've got way too much debt as compared to our assets, even our GDP. So let's put some numbers to it. Let's just use our $20,000 example. All right, we claim, and you guys are going to roll your eyes, but let's just say the government has the 260 million ounces of gold we say we have. All right, let's see, 260 million times 20,000, that gets you to about $858 billion worth of gold. But if you change this price to 20,000, won't change the price of chickens or farmland or gasoline. If they do that, now you have $5 trillion on the asset side of your balance sheet. We could go from 37 trillion in debt down to 32 trillion. And the first thing you say is, well, that's not very much, Greg. Right. What if they took it to 40? Then you knock off another 5. What if you took it to 60? You knock off another 5. You don't have to pay off the whole debt. All you have to do is get your balance sheet where the debt is sustainable. Now, we'll get to the secondary effects probably next week about there's no free lunch here. But people said, well, just because you can do it, do we have the mechanisms in place to make this happen? And this is where I have to do a tip of the hat to two guys, George Gammon and Luke Groman. And I watched a podcast on this a couple of weeks ago, which kind of launched this gold series we're doing right now. And what they discovered, which I didn't even know existed, was something called this, the Financial Accounting Manual for Federal Reserve Banks. Now, I pulled an image up off the internet, and the date on this one was January of 17, but they've updated this May of 2025. Well, what is the Financial Accounting Manual for Federal Reserve Banks? It's their operations manual. The Federal Reserve has an operations manual, just like a bank does, or the military does, or any business. People don't always follow them, but you've got an operations manual. They have one. And when you go to paragraph 2-2.10, gold certificate account, read this with me. The Secretary of the Treasury is authorized to issue gold certificates to the reserve banks here it is, to monetize gold held by the US Department of Treasury. What does that mean? What's a gold certificate? Basically, it's an accounting thing. We're back to the balance sheet. The Federal Reserve can get from our Treasury gold certificates, and then in turn, the Treasury can crank out a whole bunch of new currency units, and we can start to balance up the balance sheet. What does it mean by monetizing gold? Exactly what we just talked about. You use gold as money again. Of course, think of it as money eyes instead of monetize. When we came off the gold standard in 1971 with Richard Nixon, gold kind of left the financial system. What this is saying is we can bring it back into the financial system. And if you go to the Fed's balance sheet, the thing we talk about, when you go to the assets page, they have a sample balance sheet in their operations manual. Here we are, right at the top, 2.0 gold certificate account. Wait, gold certificate account? Look where that's placed. That's number one on the asset side of their balance sheet. Number one? Wait a minute, the Federal Reserve owns all kinds of US treasuries. They own a whole bunch of those mortgages that they had to buy back in 2008 when Lehman Brothers collapsed. They've got assets everywhere. But number one, the gold certificate account? I don't know about you, but it's kind of telling me something. They're preparing to do something, and they have the structure in place within their operating system, as well as coordinating with the Treasury, that not only are they able to do it, they can do it, and they can do it legally. So when are they going to do this? That's kind of the big question. That will actually be a political decision. I'm going to guess that if the economy slows down, things get tough, the debts really start soaring, and this starts to not go well. Now, the President of the United States, in cooperation with the Treasury Secretary, in cooperation with the Chairman of the Federal Reserve, they say, well, we have these 8,133 tons of gold. Why don't we give ourselves some breathing room and let's change the price? And now you have to think about our president. He's a big personality. He's a go big or go home guy. Will he stop at $20,000? Or will he be inclined to go higher? I don't know. I'll leave that to your imaginations as to which way you would go. But you can start to see that this isn't totally woo-woo. And going from 20 to 35 was quaint for FDR, but today with trillions of debt, the principle still applies. So we'll see how this plays out. Next week, I'm going to take on the secondary effects, because there's no free lunch here. Government wins, we don't. And we'll also talk about the international piece of it. What if the US does it? What about China? What about Europe? What about Japan? And so on. So with that, I will turn it over to Walt, and happy Monday.